Hi card making friends, welcome back. It's Sandi here. Today I am going to share with you how I made this cool Christmas card using some everyday dies you probably have in your stash. There's lots of leaf dies in the Alex Syberia group. I'm showing you a bunch of them here, and today I'm going to be using these top two from the classic Foliage die set. And there's a couple more that you can use. Those are a little bit larger. I'm also going to be using the Falala die set to do my sentiment. If you have a foiling machine, there is also a foiling die for this. For my card shape, I decided to use the Sizzix stacked DECKLE dies. And here's a couple others that you can use if you don't have them. These are a great way to add some interest around the outside edge of your image without adding extra layers or a whole pile of work. And we're going to mess with them a little bit. The leftover piece you can use as a cool stencil on a card too. Here's all the pieces that I have cut, and I've used these two dies. I've done 7 of the green, 5 of the gold, and 5 of the blue. And here is the strip of matte gold that I used. This is a piece of vellum, so there was a background on my Falala. I also did 2 layers of white and stacked them with the gold on top. The green, there was a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece for the green and the blue to cut out all the pieces. I did a little bit of ink blending on these just to add a little bit of depth to the leaves. You'll see that I used the evergreen bough on the green and the peacock feathers on the blue, and I used this tiny little blending brush, and just starting down at the bottom of each of the leaves, I pulled some of the ink up just so that I had a nice deep shadow on each of the leaves. And you don't need to be too exact about this. All of the leaves are going to be stacked on top of each other, so you don't really get to see them close. It's just kind of the depth that you want in the leaves. Okay, so cleaning off my glass mat, and I'm changing over to the green, and I'm going to do the same thing. One tip, don't push too hard. You don't want to rip the leaves away from the stem. Next, we're going to do some gold embossing. I'm going to be using the Simon Says Stamps Detailed Gold, and I have my anti-static and some Versamark ink. And so I'm starting with the card front, the one that I just die cut, and I'm rubbing the edge into the Versamark ink and then dunking it into my gold embossing powder and then heat setting it. That one's a little bit on the skinny side. I will go back and do it again, but you're going to do this on all 4 edges. I do one at a time. That way I don't get mixed up as to which ones I'm holding my fingers, because I've got very warm fingers, so they pick up any of your fingerprints. The embossing powder sticks to it. So just work your way around. And like I said, this is a really easy way to add another layer of kind of matting to your card in kind of a mixed media way. And it doesn't add any extra bulk, and you're not using a whole bunch of really expensive gold paper. This is a technique from years and years and years ago. And of course, we used to tear our edges because we didn't have any cool rulers or dies back then to do this. So this was part of Christmas cards long ago, like probably 25, 30 years ago. I'm telling you how old I am now and how long I've been stamping. So I'm going around and I'm fixing that one little skinny one that didn't get very much embossing. I'm going to go back over that one more time, I think. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the card front. So this one is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and we're going to be taping this to a white card base, but I'm going to do the same with the edge on this one. And it's not deckled, it's just straight. And that's what they look like stacked up. Okay, now it's time to start building our wreath. So we're going to use Barely Art Glue. I like using this one because it's got a nice fine tip on it. I also really like the glue. And so you're going to add, this is overkill. You really only need glue on the bottom kind of 3 or 4, but that one is the base one. So I'm just adding a little bit extra and starting there because I want to overlap the stem. Okay, and working your way around so that this base creates the wreath. And we're only doing like 3/4 of the wreath. The rest of it is kind of off the card, which I find kind of interesting. I think it's nice to look at. I also have a hard time scrunching all of this wreath into the center of a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card. Okay, so there's my base point. I'm going to come in next with the green, and we're going to do the same thing. This time I'm only adding glue to the bottom 2 or 3 leaves, because I want the rest of them to kind of stick up a little bit and be nice and full. I don't want the whole wreath to be flat. And if you glued them all down, it definitely would be flat. Also, the other one is because I am tucking the stem underneath the one that I just glued, and I'm pushing some of them up and some of them down so they're not lined up perfectly right over top of the blue ones that I just glued down, so that we have a nice selection of being able to see the green and the blue leaves at the same time. The other reason you only want to do the bottom ones is we're going to come back in with the gold leaves and we're going to tuck those in, and if everything's glued down, that's going to be difficult. Okay, so just working my way around, again, trying not to line them up with the blue ones underneath. And just gently picking them up and moving them around. Using the glue also gives you a little bit of time to maneuver them if one goes someplace that you don't want it, or you need to, stretch it out or move it around a little bit. You do have a couple seconds to do that. So for the gold ones, I have 5 of them, and I want to balance them out. So I'm going to start with 1 in each corner, top and bottom, and then I'm going to put 1 in the middle, and from there, that's going to determine the spacing for the final 2. Okay, so I'm tucking this one in on the top, letting some of it hang out. Remember, I've got that extra ledge from my base, so I'm just making sure that I'm staying within that. Okay, a little bit more glue. Trying to decide which one I'm going to pull up and tuck under. There we go. And I think adding the gold just adds nice elegance to this. I also considered tipping just the tips of the green and the blue leaves into the embossing powder and embossing it that way, but I like the addition of the gold. So I need to put some backing behind my Falala, and it's on vellum, so you can see any kind of adhesive behind vellum. So what I did here was I cut a really, really skinny strip off the edge of the foam squares, and I'm adding these little skinny pieces to the back behind where the cardstock is that created the Falala. And then that way you're not going to be able to see my adhesive. Okay, one more. Right on the end there. Alrighty. So I'm going to remove the protective covers, and I'm just doing this while the glue is drying on all of those leaves. And then we're going to remove the acrylic handle that I stuck on top of it to kind of hold it down to dry. And we're going to add the sentiment. Okay, and I'm just lining up kind of where it's going to look on the finished card. Okay, pretty. Okay, so flip this over. I'm using my Big Mama foam tape roll from Simon Says Stamps. I think I've had this for 2.5 years and I still haven't run out of tape. This is really a Big Mama roll of tape. It's a very good value, and I really like this tape. It's the perfect width or depth for just popping up your card fronts a little bit without causing the fact that you might need some extra postage, which I hate paying. Okay, so then you just want to burnish the ends of these guys just with your fingernail. Push them down really, really hard, and that actually makes it easier to pull that resist paper off. And if you use something sharp like the tip of your tweezers, it's quite easy to pull this back. So you just want to remove all of those. And that's going to give you a nice solid foundation for your card front attaching to your card base. Make sure you put it right ways up. And then we're going to try and center it. Hard to do when you don't have your head right over top of it, but I didn't want to get my head in the camera. Okay, so I'm going to use the terrific tape from Simon Says Stamps. This is nice and strong, but it's also easy to tear. And again, you're just going to pull off that protective cover and then add strips the other way. And I do the 2 long ones and then pull the tape off, because you don't want to put the next layer of tape over top of that resist tape that you're trying to get off. It makes a really big mess on the back of your cards. Believe me, I've done it a few times. Okay, so then here's my little trick. I'm using my Score Buddy. I've got my card base in there. I'm using the top left-hand corner to wedge everything in and get it on there nice and straight. So I have a little bit of white showing, which is quite common. I'm going to take these beautiful scissors from Spellbinders. These are my new favorites. They're no stick, and they're also nice and sharp. They're made out of metal, not plastic. They're substantial. And they are really nice scissors and perfect for doing edges like I'm doing right here. Oh, Bella just woke up. She says hi. We have a rescue puppy, a little black lab, and she's just getting used to living here with us. So when I'm talking, she thinks I'm talking to her. Okay, so I'm just trimming off the bottom because I don't want any of that white showing. And there we go. Okay, really pretty, lots of bling, but we're not done yet. We, of course, need some splatter. So I'm popping the card into my splat box. I'm going to be using the Gamma-Tambi, and I am adding some water to the gold. And while that is loosening up, I'm going to do the same thing with some white acrylic paint. Add some water to it, mix it up with my paintbrush. It's not quite runny enough. So adding some more water. And then you want to do a couple of little practice splats to make sure that you got what you want. And then pop it all over the card. And I did literally go all over the card. That's sentiment, all the leaves, the background, the whole 9 yards. It adds something. In this case, probably snow. But it just really adds to the elegance of the card. Okay, I didn't clean my paintbrush very well. I got some white into my gold, so I just need to mix that up a little bit. Get it going and add a whole bunch of the gold to it as well. And it's hard to see on this video, but this really does bling it up. And I just really like the multimedia feel to this card. There we go. Isn't it pretty? So everything I've used today is listed underneath this video. There's also a link over to my blog where you can get the details of what I used. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider giving me a thumbs up and sharing it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you get notified for the next video download. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, toodles!